Welcome, everyone. My name is Cody Garcia. I am the owner and, I guess, CEO of the company Resurgent Theories LLC, and this is the presentation for the new game project that I am trying to develop. So, let's get started. The game project is called Global Resurgence. Now, the basic story for this is that Earth has been invaded by two races and infiltrated by another. One of the races that invaded is known as the Legion. This is an alien race whose culture resembles ancient Rome, but they have far more advanced technology. The race that infiltrated us is known as the Mystics. To us, they kind of seem more like a cult, and their means of aggression seem more like they're using magic than technology. While the last race that invaded us is called the Swarm. This is a collection of insects and other creatures that have essentially formed like some super hive or colony and go around ravaging planets. And the only thing that's kind of helped us to kind of recover is a secret UN research division ended up developing nanotechnology, which they've been able to successfully utilize in the field and have made practical and usable in both soldiers and certain pieces of technology. And for there, that should be essentially the basic backstory of what happened, what led up to this, and what has allowed us to essentially fight back. Now, the initial game world is only going to be the continent of Europe. And essentially, how it's going to go, the basic gameplay, is the community will be given a week to take as much territory away from the aliens as they can. And then after that week, it swaps to where we, as a community, have to hold as much territory as we can from the aliens taking it back. And essentially, this switches back and forth, and both for attacking and defending, whoever essentially controls. So, if we're attacking and we gain 70% of a region, the area, at the end of the week, we gain control. Vice versa, when defending, if the aliens gain 70% of the total area of a region when attacking, they gain control. And essentially, the capital city, the last city that we created, also known as Bastion, as players get further away from the capital, the level of the regions will become higher and higher. Now, to go over what kind of game this will be, um, first off, this is going to be a first person shooter. Certain actions, weapons, and vehicles will either force you into third person or allow for third person camera views. Uh, this is going to be a multiplayer online game, but it's mainly going to be cooperative, similar to like Helldivers 2, where it's the community versus the game world. Uh, and then when it comes to the instances in the world, in the open world, the instances are 24 players max. Uh, that's split into about 4 different squads, so each squad can have about 6 people, essentially a party. Uh, Missions and raids that will unlock as the community progresses. Those will be private instances and they won't be public, so it'll just be the squad that you go in with. And the kind of combat that will be in this game is going to be combined arms, which means there will be both, fighting as an infantry soldier and then vehicle play, which will include some aircraft. Though not all the vehicles will be available in the beginning due to story reasons. Uh, this is going to be a looter shooter, so that means similar to like the Division and Destiny, as you fight and kill enemies, they will drop essentially loot that you can get opened or decrypted, however you want to look at it, back at a major outpost to get different loot to, get more equipment, more powerful gear and stuff like that. The world will be persistent for the regions and territories. Not everything is going to be persistent. Really, the things that's going to be persistent as far as who controls it. Whether it'll be the enemy controls it, whether we're humanity and the enemy are fighting over a region, or whether or not humanity controls a region. Uh, there'll be other things that are persistent when it comes to uh, the regions developing, but that's going to be something that's either a far later addition or once the game is further along. That's like one of the last additions. Uh, though in the instances there won't really be much persistence in the sense of like certain terrain, buildings, and things can be destroyed. So you could technically go into an instance where a building is already destroyed and as much as can be destroyed of it as possible. And if you leave and if you come back and you get into a different instance, the building might be restored. So because it's a new instance, so it would have everything destroyable as not broken, and you can use that in the new instances. Uh, the open world, the difficulty is going to be set, so there's not going to be any kind of difficulty slider or anything like that. You can't choose like what is it, like world tiers or anything like that. But the different regions and territories, along with the levels that I mentioned previously, uh, depending on the size of it and anything like that, the regions and territory difficulties will vary. So, like a smaller region might have, be easier, while a medium one will be more difficult, and like a large region will be like hard with the enemies and conditions that you have to face in it. Uh, missions and raid difficulty, the missions and raids will have a difficulty that can be chosen. Uh, it'll start off at normal and then you can, increase from there. And tentatively, what I have in mind is the more players you have above the minimum, the density of enemies will increase, but that will have to be tested as far as like any kind of limitations as far as the system and programming and everything like that. Uh, and also similar to what Helldivers 2 kind of does, is there will be like major events or objectives and special events, like one-time events going on that will, it won't be as consistent as Helldivers 2, like, oh, you have to do this or else something bad will happen. Uh, it'll happen, it'll be an uncommon thing, but these major events or objectives will happen to where, depending on whether or not it's completed or not, will affect, various different things within the game world and stuff like that. So, your character. So, players, in the beginning, much like any character creator, you'll be able to decide the appearance of your character. Uh, while you're doing that, what you'll be able to do is also determine like the body type and size of your character, and this will determine about like three or four different stats that will be inherent to your character. This can be changed, obviously, and it's not based on like what gender you pick. So it's more of the size. So like if you pick a smaller character, certain stats will change, and if you pick a larger character, stats will change accordingly. Uh, During the tutorial, which character everyone will be pushed towards, of obviously there will be a way to skip it if you think you're veteran enough and you want to skip it, which you'll always have the liberty to come back and redo certain parts of it as a refresher. But you'll get to choose your class, weapons, and armor in the tutorial. Now, once you finish the tutorial, you'll be asked to finalize and decide what you really want. While going through the tutorial, you'll be able to experiment with all the different classes, weapons, and armor that you'll, have a choice from. So, like, if you choose something at the start, don't think you'll be hard coded and, oh, I made my decision, this is what I get. No, you'll be given a chance to experiment with the different types of weapons and armor choices and classes to decide what best fits for you before you finish it. Later, players will be able to loot extra things that will be available to player, which are equipment and boosts. And obviously, as you go on, you'll be able to either purchase or loot better armor and weapons as you go along. Now, the different classes that you'll have to pick from, there will be 7 of them, and you'll be able to swap these at any like major outpost or base of humanity. So you won't be able to do it out in the field, but you're able to freely swap between them, and each class has its own progression, so you don't have to worry about like losing progress on one or uh, getting one up there, then worrying about it lowering or anything like that. Now, of the 7 classes, they all fall into 3 different categories. So you have your aid type classes, which this is to help your teammates, fellow humans, you know, ally AI soldiers and other players. These are the medics, health engineer helps with vehicles and armor, and then you have support, which essentially supplies ammo. From there, you have the aggression classes, which these are essentially trying to help you cause the enemy more damage. The assault is essentially the direct damage, builds an energy bomb, throws it, causes massive damage in an area. While the Sky Ranger essentially is a mobility thing, which helps you get, flank or get the drop on an enemy, to kill them or cause damage. While the Survivor classes are for, protecting either yourself or your teammates. The Assassin class is essentially pretty self-explanatory. If you couldn't guess, deals with going invisible, cloaking, while the Guardian essentially puts up an energy barrier to essentially block enemy fire, while allowing allies on his side of the shield to shoot through. Now, the different weapons that players will use to hurt the enemy, or primarily hurt the enemy with, uh, players will have 3 weapon slots, and there will be about 8 different categories. And small weapons, like pistols or even very small submachine guns, can be dual wielded and only take a single weapon slot. Uh, Different categories, are assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, light machine guns, explosive weapons, sniper rifles, pistols, and then melee weapons. Uh, and melee weapons will have their own durability instead of ammo. and each weapon equipped will affect your character's agility, which essentially is how fast you go in different ways. So like something smaller like a pistol may not affect your agility at all, while having a huge rocket launcher might slow you down a little bit. Of course, some of the larger weapons, another stat that you'll have is a strength stat, and that'll be based on your character's build, the body type that you chose earlier. But the strength stat will help to lessen the penalties you have from larger weapons. And then every weapon, and melee weapons included, will all have like attachment slots to which players can loot different attachments and they can attach them to their weapons. This will help to alter the stats a little bit, or help with the performance. Now, the armor that your character can have, you'll end up being able to have 6 different pieces. You'll have one for your head, one for your torso, one for your arms, one for your hands, one for your legs, and then one for your feet. You'll have 3 different types to choose from. Light, medium, heavy, pretty standard. But you're also allowed to mix and match these armor pieces. Uh, so having a lighter armor will give you smaller amounts of armor, which will be a separate armor bar, similar to the Division, how they'll have to punch through your armor first before they start damaging your health. So lighter armor will give you less armor, but also have a smaller agility penalty to your character. And essentially, the heavier you go, the more armor you get at the cost of more agility. So, you know, light armor will have the least amount of armor, but also the smallest agility penalty, while the heaviest armor will give you the most armor, but also have the highest agility penalty. Uh, so when you do say like you mix and match the different armors, like as you take damage to your armor bar, like the damage will be spread out evenly percentage wise to like all the different armor pieces. And for example, like if one heavy piece of armor was like 20% of your armor bar, that means like 20% of the damage you get goes to that piece, by itself, and then the rest gets distributed, based on the percentage of, how much total armor that piece is providing to your armor. Like that's the percentage it would get, to distribute it evenly to your different armor pieces. Uh, Armor will be able to be repaired, at bases for free. In the field, you'll be able to have like consumables that you can use to repair your armor, or you can rely on your engineer players to repair your armor. And while there's only 3 different, categories, light, medium, and heavy armor, each armor piece may be slightly different. So, one heavy piece might not be the same as another heavy piece. And both stats and then design as well. So there were planned to be like different designs for different uh, armors. So like there might be, as an example, like a steampunk armor or something like that. There might be you know Japanese samurai armor, and there might be certain things might have a light, medium, and heavy version, and then there are some that might just only have a heavy version, only a light version. Uh, that hasn't been finalized yet, but that's the idea that I'm going with for the different armor designs. Now, equipment. This is something I briefly touched on the character slide. So, your character will eventually be able to have 3 pieces of equipment. You won't have these all at the beginning. You'll have to, unlock all your equipment slots as you level up your character. Uh, but these different pieces of equipment will have different uses and will be limited due to the amount of ammo or durability. What I mean by that is they only have a certain amount of uses in the field. An example is like grenades. This would be like an ammo limit. You only your piece of equipment that you equip only has a certain amount of grenades that come with it. So you'd get like 2 or 3 grenades, and as when you use them up, you're out of ammo, and you'll need to have that replenished by either returning to a major base or having a support player replenish it. On the other side, there are others that have durability or uses. This would be things like the grapple hook. Instead it won't have ammo, but as you use it, the durability will go down, and once the durability is 0, you'll have to have it repaired either at a major base or by an engineer player. Uh, some will actually have both, which example is what I have down there, like the deployable turret. This will have both a durability and will also have ammo that will need to be repaired and replenished by the associated classes that do it. So if the durability's down, engineer will have to repair it. If it's out of ammo, support class will have to repair or replenish it. And then these can both be done at a major base. Uh, some equipment's damage and durability will go up as you get higher level equipment. Now, only certain equipment will have levels. These are mainly the ones that deal with uh, any kind of damage. So, like, grenades, they'll have a level because you'll need higher level equipment to cause more damage. And, like a deployable energy shield or emergency dome shield will have to have levels, to increase the amount of damage the shield can take before it breaks. Uh, while others won't have, a level at all, like the grapple hook. Like, it doesn't matter whether you get a higher level grapple hook or not, it's still going to do the same thing. Uh, and as I have it listed, some are static due to their utility. This would be things like, you know, a smoke grenade, because, it's not going to change anything. It doesn't do damage and it doesn't protect from any damage, so it has no reason to have a level. Uh, Again, there are certain offensive equipment, grenades, deployable turrets. There are going to be aid types, which will be, typical things like a defibrillator for extra, revives, uh, deployable medical bag, to heal players or AIs that are within range, and then a deployable ammo, to replenish ammo. Uh, while others are utility or movement, these are things like the grapple hook that I mentioned earlier, smoke grenades, or even parachutes. Uh, and then defensive ones are like the deployable energy dome shield that I mentioned before, and like deployable cover. And most of the equipment will have to be looted as you play, and only some of the very basic equipment will be purchasable. Like like grenades will be purchasable from vendors. Boosts are another thing I kind of touched on in the creation slide or character slide, and essentially what these are different kind of chips that will like interact or change the characteristics of some of the nanobots within your character's body. You know, there'll be 2 different types: uh, performance and utility. Some will have increase your stats to a certain degree that would mainly be useful in like combat, while others are more utility things. Like adding a mini map or a motion tracker. Uh, and all the boosts will need to be looted. Again, Much like the equipment, only basic boosts will be purchasable at vendors. Uh, there aren't any levels for boosts because these primarily deal in percentages. So it won't matter what level they are, because the higher your character level goes, the more it'll increase because it's on a percentage basis rather than a straight number to improve. And the player will be able to have a total of 5 boosts total. So they'll have 2 utility slots and 3 performance slots once they hit max level. And these can only be installed and changed at major bases and can't be done in the field, much like how classes are. Now, one thing I think that will this isn't a totally unique system, but I think this will help with the progression of characters. Is there's going to be a certification system, and this is essentially a separate leveling system for all your gear and even your classes and vehicles as well. So every piece of gear you have, class or vehicle, will have a certification level. So as you use it, you'll get experience towards it, and you'll increase your certification level on it. And certain things like weapons will have like certification tasks. So it would be like every 5 levels, you'll have a task to do, and if you complete that task, you'll get like a bigger boost. So as you increase the certification level, you'll get small incremental boosts to that specific thing. So like as you increase the certification level of a specific assault rifle type, you'll have like small bonuses towards that type of assault rifle. And when you complete the task, you'll get a bigger boost, but you'll be allowed to choose like what boost you get rather than it already being predetermined. Not everything will have certification tasks that need to be completed, and they might only have just certification levels. But that's what we're going with all the different gear classes and vehicles. Uh, you've probably seen this in kind of, I guess, Battlefield. Uh, the most I can think of as far as like Battlefield example is like as you increase your level of it, you unlock different upgrades. But with this, there are no upgrades to unlock. Maybe the only thing that's different for like classes and vehicles. Uh, for vehicles, as you increase the general certification level of, say, like wheeled vehicles, you'll unlock the ability to use like different wheeled vehicles, like better ones. And as you increase the certification level of a specific vehicle, you may unlock more, like equipment slots, for like or upgrade slots for it. It hasn't been completely finalized with what it will be because we'll need to play test that. And for classes, as you level up your basic classes, those will split off into specializations that you'll be able to swap between, and will add like an additional ability or additional buff to your class ability. Uh, Attachments will have their own certification level. So will armor. Armor will pretty generalized into light, medium, and heavy, and then maybe certain special armors will have their own certification levels that are separate from the general categories. But other than that, that's going to be how the certification level system will work with everything. So the loot packages. These are, I guess, these would be equivalent to Destiny's engram system. Essentially, you'll get loot packages instead of engrams. It'll work similar in the sense that you have to bring them back to a major base to have them opened up to get what's inside them. Uh, the rarity of the loot is going to be pretty randomized, but whatever rarity it is, that's what you're getting. And the level of it, if a level applies, will be determined by the level of enemy you kill, which is generally determined by the region that you're in. There are going to be three different types of loot packages, weapons, armor, and extras. Uh, Weapons will give, obviously weapons. Armors will give different armors, and extras, you'll be given the choice between like attachments, equipments, or boosts. And only certain facilities and merchants at major bases can open these. And when you're opening them, how it'll work is it'll give you like three different options. For the extras, it would be like, do you want an attachment, equipment, or boost? Uh, the armors will be the three different types: light, medium, heavy. And then weapons will be, three different weapon categories. And then after you choose the first option, you'll be given two more. And from there, you won't be able to go back. You'll be stuck with that choice, and then you'll have to choose between the two that you get. Now, when it comes to loot on you, if you die in the frontline regions, these are regions that either we are actively defending from the enemy from taking over, or we're attacking a region to take it over. If you die in these kind of regions, you'll be able to go back to where you died and get your loot back. Now, if you go beyond the front lines and you just are in enemy controlled territory, if you die, your loot is lost, period. Like, there's no recovering it. But on the flip side, if you die in a human controlled region or territory, then if you die, all your loot will be auto recovered and you'll find it in your storage later. Now another thing, similar I guess how what MMOs and I guess even Battlefield and Call of Duty have is you'll have clans, though in here they'll be known as battalions. And at first, it's probably only depending on how the development goes. You may only be able to just form them and join them, but later what you'll be able to do, or it's planned that you'll be able to do, is you'll be able to have like a clan HQ where everyone can gather up. You can, do planning, have certain storage, uh, collection, training, whatever. And eventually, what's planned is clans can take or purchase the rights to control or run a region that's controlled by humanity. And from there, if a clan gets control of a region, what they'll be able to do is build certain facilities within the region and territories to help with either resource collection or to strengthen the territory from, enemy attack. Or you can install different facilities that will provide different support functions. This would include, like artillery barrages when you're defending, or if they're big enough artillery stations, you might even get, artillery support in, adjacent regions when you're attacking or defending. And then other things you might be able to do, build certain, facilities that help with, vehicle storage or deployments. Same with airfields for deploying certain aircraft. Uh, and then like with depending like with the airfields and what aircraft you have available, you may even unlock the ability to have certain vehicles airdropped to your troops in the field, and that will be based on either their own personal collection of vehicles or the battalion's collection of vehicles, which are all used as they call them. And later, it also is planned that the clans or battalions will have special operations that they can do, which are larger than the normal uh, 24 size or 24 player max size of an instance. Though, again, that may be limited due to, programming or how much the hardware can handle as far as what's planned for the game. And with that, I thank you for viewing this presentation for the game project Global Resurgence. Now, this is only the very basics of what I have planned. I have pretty much a lot of the advanced stuff already planned out, but I wanted to leave some mystery because I don't want to share everything and have, there be no mystery for this game at all. And what's going to happen is there is a Kickstarter that should be going on right now at the posting of this video that we are trying to get the prototype made. Now, the prototype is not going to be the prettiest. It is not meant to look the nicest. And essentially, what it is supposed to do, it is supposed to be the foundational build for all the heavy mechanics that will be in the game. And this will go in different phases. This will go for 6 months. And this will be essentially the proof of concept for the mechanics. Because as far as looks, that can be improved later. Because it doesn't matter how good it looks if any of the mechanics don't work properly, don't function properly together, or the gameplay loop and mechanics aren't fun. So the initial Kickstarter for this is just going to be for the prototype. That is the foundational build for the game and will mainly have the base mechanics and functions of the game and won't have all the aesthetics dressing it up yet. But again, thank you for sitting through this entire presentation. I look forward to see what everyone's interest is for this game project and have a great day.